Every great empire has a humble, sometimes even comical origin story, but few are as absurd as Airbnb's. The year is 2007. Two young designers living in San Francisco, Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia, were facing the risk of eviction because they couldn't afford their rent that month. A major design conference was being held in the city, and all the hotels were completely booked. That's when an idea struck Joe. Why not rent out the air mattresses in their living room and offer a stay that included breakfast? This didn't sound like a business model, it sounded like a survival tactic. They built a simple website, airbedandbreakfast.com. On the first night, they had 3 guests. The guests slept on air mattresses on the floor and had breakfast with their hosts in the morning. Brian and Joe earned $80 that weekend. This small amount was enough to pay their rent, but more importantly, it ignited the fuse for the world's largest accommodation revolution. Who would have guessed that anyone would pay to sleep on a mattress on the floor in the home of a complete stranger? Brian and Joe brought in their former roommate and technical genius, Nathan Blecherczyk, to join the team. However, the road ahead was steeper than the hills of San Francisco. Whenever they knocked on investors' doors, the reaction was always the same. People won't sleep in strangers' homes. This idea is both dangerous and stupid. In Airbnb's early days, they sent emails to 15 angel investors. 8 didn't even bother to reply, and the remaining 7 rejected them, saying, "This business cannot scale." At that time, the term sharing economy didn't even exist in the literature. While hotel lobbies were symbols of security and luxury, entering a stranger's house was seen as social suicide. The team was drowning in 5-figure credit card debt. Their office was also their bedroom, and their dinners consisted of cheap cereal. But they had noticed something that hotels couldn't offer: locality and a sense of belonging. By 2008, the company was on the verge of bankruptcy. Their website was getting almost no traffic. Right then, the US presidential election, Obama versus McCain, broke out. Instead of giving up, the team followed a frantic guerrilla marketing strategy. They bought tons of cereal boxes and designed custom packaging labeled Obama O's and Captain McCain's. They sold these boxes as limited edition collectibles for $40 each. It might sound like a joke, but what saved Airbnb from bankruptcy wasn't a tech investment. It was the $30,000 they earned from these cereal boxes. This story reached the ears of Paul Graham, the founder of the famous incubator Y Combinator. Graham told them, "If you can sell stale cereal for $40, maybe you can actually make this business work," and accepted them into the program. This was the beginning of the major leagues for Airbnb. Even during the Y Combinator period, things were still moving slowly. Paul Graham asked them a single question: "Where are your users?" The answer was New York. Graham said, "Then go and meet your users." Brian and Joe visited every single host in New York one by one. In that moment, they realized why the site wasn't growing. The photos were terrible. Hosts had taken pictures of their homes with dark, cluttered, and poor-quality phone cameras. This was one of the biggest turning points in Airbnb's history. The team rented a professional camera and went door to door taking the photos themselves. People started making reservations when the photos on the site looked like a magazine page, rather than just a real house. This move was far more effective than writing code. By using their identities as designers, they managed to build a sense of trust through visual aesthetics. After 2010, Airbnb began growing at rocket speed. They were no longer just in San Francisco or New York. They were everywhere from Paris to Tokyo. Instead of competing with hotels, they offered a living experience in neighborhoods where hotels didn't exist. The slogan "Travel with Airbnb," live like a local, not a tourist, captured the hearts of millions of travelers. Investors were now crowding their doorstep. By the time the company reached $1 billion valuation, it was no longer just a booking site. It had become a culture. However, this growth brought significant problems. Some guests turned homes into party zones and trashed them. Some city governments accused Airbnb of illegal hoteliering and tried to ban it. Brian Chesky had to manage these crises one by one. He turned the crisis into an opportunity by providing a $1 million insurance guarantee for every home and sitting down at the table with city officials. When the pandemic broke out in 2020, Airbnb's entire world stopped overnight. Reservations were canceled by 90%, and the company lost half its value. Brian Chesky said, "It felt like everything that took us 12 years to build was lost in for weeks. Everyone thought it was the end for Airbnb." However, Airbnb adapted to the flexible working model. People fled cities and began staying for long periods in homes in rural areas. Airbnb transformed from just a vacation spot into a place where people lived and worked. In one of history's most challenging periods, the company cut costs, simplified its business model, and made a massive entry into the stock market at the end of 2020. Its value soared over $100 billion. The journey that started from an air mattress had resulted in a global real estate and technology triumph. Today, Airbnb has more rooms and beds than any hotel chain in the world, yet it doesn't own a single building. The story of Brian, Joe, and Nathan teaches us that even the craziest ideas can change the world if they touch upon a fundamental human need, like trust and belonging. Airbnb is no longer just an app. It is a source of additional income for hosts and a home away from home for travelers. Remember, the next big idea might be sitting in your living room right now as a simple problem waiting to be solved. Thank you for watching. See you in the next success story.